New liveries, fresh drivers, WRA is back underway with testing day 1. Alonso set the early pace today before Alfie set a blistering lap to beat that, a 1:17.3. Mimula and Juan had a bit of a battle out on track today. Juan eager to get past the Alfa Romeo, but finally did it on the exit of the final corner and going down the straight, getting the slipstream with DRS and got past his rival, before going fastest just a few minutes later. Aston Martin had an up and down day today with blistering pace, but a few crashes and spins and mistakes really set them back. The first spin of the day came when Blaze Tim got onto the curb and spun around in his SF21, luckily missing the barriers and not causing any damage to his SF21 except for tires. After Blaze Tim's spin, the Merc of Dirk went off as well before the first big spin for Aston Martin happened when Alonso got onto the curb and spun around. That corner will definitely be a tough one for the drivers to navigate. You will see a few more spins there before he went off again at turn 2. Another driver going off at turn 2 and spinning around was the Williams on the hard compound tires before Mimula spun on the entry to the pit lane twice and really struggled on the hards. King Enzo, our previous champion, also spun at turn 2, but narrowly missing Yaragos in the Ferrari. Juan, though, was not so lucky to miss the barriers as he hit the barriers very, very hard. Zauber was the first retirement of the day, spinning at turn 2, reversing back onto the track and ending up getting disqualified for going backwards on the track. A very unfortunate day for him. However, Eckford Guest was more interested on the other layouts of Spain, taking a trip on his outlap. Juan crashed again at the same corner that he did a while back. Fortunately for him, damage was turned off. Alonso, his teammate, went off as well in the final sector. But Aston wasn't the only one suffering crashes. The Williams careering into the barrier, a pretty big shunt for the British team, now owned by Dorilton Capital. Yaragos found himself in the tire barrier after a spin in the middle sector, but fortunately for him, got away without too much damage and without too much time. Juan was arguably pushing the most out of any driver today, hitting the barriers multiple times. Yaragos once again spinning around in the final sector. He's having a little bit of trouble getting a hold of that SF21. Tricky car to drive. The Williams, though, going off the track, taking a little trip onto the grass and eventually the gravel. Juan went fastest on his final lap. A solid day and solid pace from Aston Martin, except for a few mistakes. Juan led the first day of testing from Avesta. Then comes Alonso, King Enzo, Yaragos, Eckford Guest, and Mimula. And on to the afternoon session. First spin of the day was Blaze Tim at turn 2. Then Vaseline in the Ferrari went off in the final sector, but fortunately for him, got back onto the track before too long. Zauber had a number of offs. The first one outbraking himself into turn 1 before spinning around again at the final corner. DaBaby was another driver struggling on day 1, spinning around at the final corner as well and barely missing the Red Bull before Blaze Tim spun as well. Vaseline again spun in the final sector. This time, he did make the barriers and broke off a chunk of his front wing, so he had to limp his SF21 back into the pit lane. Another Zauber spin came on lap 6 when he spun in the first sector coming out of the long right-hander. DaBaby went off in a massive way at turn 1, completely missing his braking zone and slamming into the barriers. Aston Martin weren't safe in the afternoon session either, as they broke off their front wing, spinning around, before sliding off the road and understeering onto the grass and eventually the gravel just one corner later. Zauber spun again, really struggling to take control of his McLaren before hitting the barriers and losing his front wing and barely missing the Alpine. Vaseline spun at turn 2, a number of spins for the Ferrari driver before the Mercedes has a massive off into the barriers and completely wrecks his car, which brought out a red flag. Another spin for Aston Martin came in the final sector. But Sauber wasn't done yet with his spinning as he went off in a massive way, hitting the barriers and breaking off his entire front wing yet again. But this wasn't his biggest crash. Here it is, spinning and smashing into the tires. A massive crash for McLaren and a big, hefty repair job for that British team. All in all, an expensive day for McLaren and an expensive day for Aston Martin as they hit the barrier again and broke off another front wing. But the biggest crash of the day came when Vaseline smashed the barrier and completely wrecked the tire barrier, which brought out another red flag, and it was a massive crash. Here it is in slow motion. You can see him go into the barrier, and you can see that barrier completely ripping apart. So that concludes day 1 of preseason testing.